gleeful that I humiliated my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife. Back in February, my newlywed wife went away for a week to see her family and friends, which we had moved across the country from for her fellowship. I didn't come with her as I was saving my PTO to cash out to help fund our next move, which would have been last month, and I also needed some dental work done and couldn't delay it anymore. While she was staying with her family, she called me. I could sense something off in her voice, so I asked her what was wrong. She told me how unhappy and alone she has felt since we had moved. She said it felt more like a roommate, and that I had ruined her fellowship for her because I didn't care for the area we were living in. Very high cost of living. I felt incredibly guilty hearing this. We had only been married 5 months, together for 6+ years total, and living with each other 4.5 years, and she was already suggesting marriage counseling. I didn't protest. I was eager to work things out, as I adored and loved her very much. Over the next several weeks, I was planning activities for us every weekend, on top of doing all the cooking and cleaning in the apartment. I'd always done this though. We had our first marriage counseling session, and my wife said she feared that maybe we were just too different or incompatible. Hearing this felt like a gut punch. Where was this concern prior to moving and getting married? Then came March 31st and April 1st. We went out on a former for a long walk after work and some drinks. She told me she was feeling better about things, and I felt a huge sigh of relief. The next day, we went out for breakfast, then spent the rest of the day car shopping until she found something we liked. After that, I took her out to a very nice restaurant for dinner. From there, we went to the hot tub and had some passionate session. It felt like we're starting to get out of the valley. April 2nd, I'll never forget this day. I woke up early, and despite the last few days seemingly going well, I still didn't feel like things were quite right. When my wife had told me 2 months prior she wasn't happy, I confided this to my mother. My mother's first comment to me was, there might be someone in her office. I didn't want to believe that, but it was always in the back of my head. I was up early as I mentioned, and my curiosity got the best of me, so I checked her phone. Sure enough, there was someone in the office. Someone she was texting minutes after we were intimate. Someone she had been sending nudes to, meeting up with, and planning future dates with. I was crushed, but then I exploded. For the last several weeks, I had been beaten down thinking I was the cause of her relationship falling apart, only to find out her affair began coincidentally a few days before I received her phone from her parents' house. I woke her up and asked her, what the heck is this? At that point, I just needed to unload. I called her every name in the book to break her down and to hurt her. I then called her affair partner, but he didn't pick up. So I left him some threatening messages about beating him up and exposing them in the office. He was a subordinate of hers and engaged himself. Maybe his fiancé would like to know? At that point, I just felt I needed to leave. I told her she needs to figure out what she wants because she crossed the line. I went back home, but before I did, she asked me to continue counseling remotely so we could repair things. I still foolishly loved her and agreed. Over the next several weeks in counseling, it became evident that she wasn't taking any accountability. She harped on hateful things I said to her after my discovery, and how my threats to her affair partner made her view me as potentially violent, and this made her afraid of me. This is despite me never laying a hand on anyone in my life, something she knew. I wanted her to agree to an intensive marriage retreat weekend after her fellowship ended. As we were discussing it, a coworker of hers texted me, asking if I knew that my wife was cheating on me. It turns out the affair never stopped, and my separation allowed it to turn into a full-blown relationship. Everyone in the office knew, but were hesitant to tell me. She was still parading around work, talking about me like I was still living with her and all was well. I obviously had already discovered it 2 months prior, but now I knew that I was just being strung along. For what? That I don't know. At that point, I had it. I took the evidence that I saved in April and sent it to the HR department after calling them. I knew the email addresses of several of her coworkers and CC'd them. I sent the most salacious stuff to her parents, siblings, best friends, mutual friends, and best of all, the HR department of her next employer. I let her file for divorce, as I knew that would be the end result of my revenge campaign, and it's something I should have done in April anyway. From what I'm told, she was terminated from her fellowship and the job she was supposed to start this month. Apparently, she's also emotionally distraught due to me humiliating her to family and friends, as well as destroying her reputation in the short term. And you know what? It makes me so happy. I'm glad she's been humiliated, and I only wish I could inflict more pain on her. Now for the comments. I hope the cheater's affair partner's fiancé also got a message, so she isn't wasting her life on a cheater. But well played. She didn't deserve your kindness after stringing you along for so long. She found out and left him. I just want you to hear from someone else who's been there, in almost the exact same place actually, how low down and dirty it was for her to paint your entirely justified outrage at her cheating as a propensity for violence. My lying, cheating scumbag of an ex played that card on me, and it shut me the heck down. No one in my entire life had ever said they felt unsafe around me, quite the opposite in fact. And it sent me into a full-blown crisis, which of course was the entire point. I've endured dozens of beatings over the course of my life without responding in kind, and it took me years to begin to see that as a strength rather than a source of shame. All that was undone with those false words of hers, which she demonstrably did not believe herself, and which I later learned from her sister was calculated to take me down. Also, she could fool around with some cokehead loser she met at a fleabag dive of a club in Adams Morgan. She did not deserve that, bro. Crying wolf just to undermine you is some devious and underhanded treachery of the most base and foul kind. Crap like this is why curses were invented. May they both be banished to the outer darkness, where only the void can answer their wails and pleas. Thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time to write that. Her saying she was afraid of me really got to me. I'm not a violent person, and would never lay a hand on a woman. What bothers me the most is how she tried to blame her guilt on you by manufacturing reasons things don't work. She should have just broken up. Revenge kinda sucks, but I've been cheated on so much by my ex-fiancé, and he tried to gaslight me too. It drove me insane, really. I lost my mind. I can't blame you. Mind games are so much damage. Sorry for the unsolicited advice, but consider counseling for yourself. Because I genuinely hope this doesn't affect your next relationship or leave immense anger forever. Trust me, someday the satisfaction of revenge wears off, and the anger might be back. You deserve to process this mess. All the best to you, man. I've been in counseling before I found out about the affair. When my soon-to-be ex called me in February to tell me how unhappy she was, she told me I needed counseling to work on myself. Now I'm working on myself, but not in the way I had intended when I started. My ex pulled the "I'm afraid that you lay hands on me" BS too when we were getting divorced. Spread lies that she needed to get her and our kid away because she felt unsafe. Even though A, I never laid a hand on her ever, and B, I was also in therapy at that point, and eventually had the therapist essentially testify on my behalf that I was no threat to anyone, just someone dealing with the fact my ex was cheating on me, wanted to take the kid and move away, just because she didn't want to be with me anymore. She lost, by the way. Screw him. Go off, king. Last story. Update. My girlfriend, 26 female, cheated on me, 27 male, with her ex-boyfriend. Original post. My girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years. About 2 weeks ago, she saw her ex-boyfriend for the first time since their breakup 3 years ago, and it brought out a bunch of old feelings. Last weekend, I caught her looking at old pictures of the two of them together, and she eventually confessed that she'll always love him, but doesn't know what else she's feeling. On Wednesday, I went through her phone. Yeah, I know. But I saw recent text messages saying they missed each other. He invited her to his place, but she said, "I can't. We both know where that's going to lead." I was hurt and angry. Last night I got pretty drunk and I messed things up pretty bad. I confronted her about her feelings and told her I saw her text messages. She was angry, said she had done nothing wrong, and asked if I'd trust her. I said obviously not if I'm going through her phone. She told me we'll talk more about this in the morning after I sober up, and she left. She didn't come back until this morning around 11. I asked her where she went last night, and she was just quiet. I asked if she slept with him, and she again said nothing. She told me she was just there to get her things, and then she was leaving. I asked her why, and she finally admitted to still being in love with him. She said she does love me, but I'm not him. No one ever will be. She said she wished I would have talked to her about how I was feeling while I wasn't drunk. And I told her I wish she would have just been honest with us both 2 years ago, because I've just wasted 2 years of my life. I told her to grab her things and get out. I left because I couldn't be there anymore, and so I'm standing outside when I left. I'm having a hard time with all of this, coming to terms that she was never in love with me, accepting she'd rather be back with someone who made her miserable. I'm staying with a friend because I couldn't go back to that apartment right now. We share the same group of friends. I'm going to have to see her at some point, with him. How do I get over this? Now for the top advice before reading the update. I don't have to read this. Leave her, bro. You don't have time for this." He already left, thankfully. He's understandably trying to deal with getting over someone lying so extensively to him for so long. That can absolutely mess someone up. She's gonna freaking crawl back, and you better not take her back if you even have an ounce of self-respect, my guy. Only time will heal this crap. I was 5 years into mine when she cheated and left me for a rando that was banging all her friends too. She tried to come back and I told her to get lost. I'm sorry, man. I hope you healed from it. It's just hard right now. I freaking loved her. There's nothing wrong with it, friend. That ache proves you loved properly and that your heart is working properly. It was the wrong person, but that's on her and not on you. Just remember that love is worth the investment, but you gotta love yourself just as much as the other person. You deserve to be happy, and you will one day wake up and realize you didn't think about her for a while. Then she won't even be a blip on your radar. You got this. I know you do. I know exactly what you mean. I'm not going to get it into here because I need to post it anonymously, but I'm going through something that's even worse, and I feel like I love my wife more than anyone could ever love theirs. I still feel like my wife is the love of my life, even though she cheated on me, both before and after we were married. I'm trying to tell myself this, but I can definitely say it for you. You deserve a woman who will respect you enough to be open and transparent with you, and never put you in a position where you have to wonder if she cheated. Unfortunately, the ranks of cheaters grow every single year, and our society is condoning cheating, so that trend will only get worse. But back to you. You will get over her. You've got this. Be grateful you haven't added being married to her for 2.5 years and in love with her for nearly a quarter century to your story. Insist on being respected. Cut off this cheater. Take some time away from your friend group if you're going to run into her at all. After some time passes, you might lose some friends permanently, but I wouldn't be around them, the ex and her ex/new boyfriend, ever again. That's just gross and cringy. Real friends will understand and make their choice. They don't even have to choose between you, just to know that you all won't be in the same place at the same time. Hopefully at least a couple of them will kindly give you a heads up for future possible functions you might run into each other. Some of them should be cool with you asking up front, will so-and-so be there? It's not a weird question, and anyone who says so isn't a friend to you. Just avoid being around her at all, and I do advise a break from everyone for a while. Any friends you had on your own first should be safe to hang out with. Go do some stuff with them or by yourself for a few weeks. Things will settle down. I know it sucks now, but it will get better. Now for the update. I went back to my place the next day. I couldn't go back to an empty apartment on the first night. It looked so empty without her things there. She also took something that was mine while moving out. I'm pretty sure they did it on my bed too. The sheets were a mess, and I hadn't slept in the bed the night I got drunk and confronted her. When I commented about it to my friend, he said it didn't sound like something she'd do, but my other buddy said it's absolutely something he'd do. I stayed at my friend's place that night. I intended to get drunk again, but we just had a couple of beers and gamed a bit. I blocked her completely on all social media, including her number. Yesterday I went to his place to get what she took. My friends offered to go for me, but I felt I had to do it. It sucked seeing them together, especially since he looked smug, like he won. She apologized for how things went down and I told her that means nothing. She gave me her set of keys and I left. I cried in a car while my buddy stayed back to talk to her. It's the first time I've cried over all this. My friends got me a new mattress and I've rearranged my apartment as one person suggested in another post to make it look somewhat new. I'm still not completely okay, but I'm doing a little better. Anyway, I appreciate all the comments and advice from everyone. You can take some consolation in this. While the other guy may think he won, the prize he got is someone who deceives and betrays people she claims to care about. That doesn't sound like much of a prize. I'm sorry for the pain you are in, and don't begrudge anyone the need for a temporary anesthetic. But now it's time to move forward, and drinking is going to focus you in the past instead of the future. Your friends are eager to help. Don't be afraid to ask. Thanks for the advice, man. I'll just add that trash will always follow her, because she's trash herself. She'll always be surrounded by drama and toxic people, and will alienate anyone who actually gives a damn about her. Instead of thinking you've wasted 2 years, look back and learn what red flags you should look for in the future. Trust me, Opie, that smug a-hole did you a favor. Despite how you felt about your ex, she was not a faithful woman. Had she not cheated on you with her ex, there's a good chance it would have been someone else down the road. Take solace in knowing there's a high probability that your ex and her current boyfriend are probably going to get in a cycle of fighting / breaking up / rekindling, and that they're going to bring each other a lot of misery. If anything, I'd warn you against any attempts by her to reach out to you and ask / beg for you back. Move on and find yourself someone who understands loyalty. Yep, I imagine now that he has conquered her, he will toss her to the streets sooner than later. Karma will get them. Eventually one of them or both of them will cheat on each other. I wouldn't doubt if in a few weeks they both got suspicious about each other's behaviors. Because if they were able to cheat with each other, they will cheat on each other. And now they know that. I'm super proud of you. Thanks, man. To add on, be prepared for the possibility that she tries to come back to you at some point. Chances are, this is going to flame out in spectacular fashion. And when it comes crashing down, she's gonna look for the safest landing spot. Just remember how she treated you and tell her she can buzz right off when that happens. Sorry you're going through this, man. In the end, they both did you a favor.